Hello, and welcome to Christina's Kitchen. I'm Christina. You and I will take a trip through time as we visit ancient and awesome civilizations and share some time-traveling tastiness. Are you ready? Let's find out what foods the ancient Mayans enjoyed. The Mayan Empire peaked around the 6th century AD and covered most parts of current-day Mexico, Guatemala, the Sierra Madre, and parts of El Salvador. The types of foods the Maya ate may surprise you and was an exotic blend of extensive foods that included native crops and meat. Many of today's Mexican recipes have been influenced by the ancient Mayan foods. How many of these have you eaten today? Mayans used honey as a sweetener. It was mixed with maize gruel and drunk. Mayans were very fond of squash and grew varieties of squash in their fields. Beans was another staple food of the Mayans. Though red and black beans were most commonly grown and eaten, there were other varieties of beans and legumes found too. Green, yellow, and red chili peppers were extensively grown. The Mayans liked chilies and used the different spices and ingredients to make different recipes. They even used chili peppers in their chocolate, but we'll talk more about that next time. Another staple crop of the Mayans was the sweet potato. Some of Mexico's most traditional foods include the sweet potato as a major ingredient. Besides these, the Mayans consumed apples, pineapples, papaya, guava, tomatoes, vanilla beans, avocados, and chocolate. The Mayans were very fond of meat. However, meat was not necessarily a part of the regular food preparation. People living in the coastal areas regularly consumed fish varieties as a part of their daily diet. In general, though, they were very fond of turkey meat rather than chicken. They also ate ducks and bird eggs. They hunted for deer, boars, and pork, as well as freshwater fish and turtles. The ancient Mayans used the cooking methods of boiling, grilling, and roasting extensively to process food, especially meat. The meat was put on skewers and then on a frame and grilled until perfection. Roasting meat was common for festivities, where the meat was placed in a fire pit above hot stones. Meat was also used in boiled food and spiced and used in stews. Archaeological excavation reveals that gourds were used for food storage by the Mayan people. The gourds were hollowed and emptied by the women of the house, painted, and food was served and stored in them. Women cooked the daily meals, which usually were composed of maize, beans, and squash. The most important food that the Maya ate was maize, which is a vegetable like corn. It is one of the traditional and staple Mayan foods. Maize was so important to the Maya, there is a creation story about it.
Before this world was created, there was just empty darkness everywhere. In this vast, never-ending darkness, there lived two gods, Tepeu the Maker and Gukumats the Feathered Spirit. They were pretty bored, as there was no one in the universe to worship them. So one day, they came together and decided that they would create the world. It was quite an easy task for them to do. All they had to do was just think. When they thought, Earth, a huge pile of land started taking form in the darkness. They flew over this land and thought mountains and valleys. Suddenly, large mountains arose from this pile of land, and huge valleys were formed. They thought pine trees, water, and the sky. As soon as they thought them, they appeared in an instant, and thus the earth was formed. They were very happy with what they had done so far. Tepeu and Gukumats then decided to create animals and other creatures to praise their names and to look after their creation. The animals appeared on earth one by one: the deer, the ant, the birds, the serpent, and so on. "Now praise us, say our names," commanded the creators. Naturally, the animals could only bark or grunt or howl. The noise was so deafening that Tepeu and Gugumots ordered them to stop. How could the animals worship the gods when they could not even speak? The spirits were disappointed, and they decided to create better beings who could say their names and worship them properly. Tepeu and Gugumots started experimenting, creating humans. The first humans were made using clay. The gods were happy with their work, and they gave the clay figure life. However, their heads wouldn't turn, and their faces were lopsided. Whenever they tried to speak, they kept falling apart. This was a disaster. The gods then started creating humans using wood. This batch of mankind proved somewhat more successful as they could talk. They were also stronger, able to walk and talk and multiply. These men had no memory or emotions, though. How could they worship their makers when they had no minds and their heart was empty? The words that came out of them were just as empty and meaningless. Tepeu and Gugumots didn't like what they had created. The gods decided to destroy the wood humans by sending a hurricane. It rained for days and nights, and soon the earth was flooded with water. Most of the wooden people were destroyed in the flood, but some of them managed to escape by running into the forest. The few who managed to escape by remaining in the woods later became monkeys. The gods decided to leave them as monkeys to set an example for the future humans. Tepeu and Gugumots greatly desired to create a successful race of human beings who could worship them properly. To ensure that this third and final experiment was successful, the gods sent 4 animals, a fox, a parrot, a coyote, and a crow, to find an ideal location for their next attempt. After a few days, the animals brought with them a stack of white corn, which grew on the far end of the earth. Tepeu and Gugumots first ground this maize into a paste. Then they molded human beings out of this paste to make the first 4 individual men. They were known as mother-fathers, as they represented both the female and male beings of the human race. These mother-fathers were an instant success, as they could express themselves and understand the world around them. As soon as they were awake, they worshipped Tepeu and Gugumots and thanked them for their lives. Tepeu and Gugumots were pleased with their creation. They had achieved what they wanted. "What do you see?" they asked the men. "We can see everything," replied the men. It was true. They could see through the rocks, the mountains, and to the edges of the earth. They could see the gods' entire creation, and they could even understand everything. "That is not good for us," said the gods to each other, as they thought the humans would rival them someday. The gods clouded the humans' vision so that they could not see and understand all of their creation. After that, the humans could no longer see through the rocks and the mountains. They could only see things close to them. The humans now only had a limited understanding of the world. Then the gods decided to make partners for them. While the men slept at night, 4 women were placed beside them. When the men finally woke up, they were amazed at the gods' creations. These first humans multiplied, and the population of the earth increased. There were dark-skinned and pale-skinned people. They started to travel and settled across different parts of the earth. And that, my friends, is the legend of creation in Mayan myths.
Maize was an extensively grown crop, and since agriculture was a major source of living, maize was grown in humongous quantities. Different types of maize were grown in the fields. They were harvested and washed, and then ground into different flours to make a variety of breads. They made all types of food from maize, including tortillas, porridge, and even drinks. For the corn flour, the maize crop was first soaked in lemon water and drained. It was then ground on a small cylindrical stone table and mixed with water. Then they had a thin dough-like gruel which was rolled into a flatbread called tortillas. The tortillas were pan-roasted on a hot clay griddle and eaten with a variety of topping. Today, we're going to make Mayan sweet corn cakes. Let's get out our ingredients. Remember, never cook alone. Always get your folks' help. 1/2 cup butter softened, 1/3 cup masa harina, 1/4 cup water, 1½ cups frozen whole kernel corn, thawed, 1/4 cup cornmeal, 1/3 of a cup of white sugar, 2 tablespoons heavy whipping cream, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder. In a medium bowl, beat butter until it's creamy. Add the Mexican corn flour and water and beat until well mixed. Using a food processor, process thawed corn, but leave chunky. Stir into the butter mixture. In a separate bowl, mix cornmeal, sugar, cream, salt, and baking powder. Add to the corn flour mixture and stir to combine. Pour the batter into an ungreased 8 by 8 inch baking pan. Smooth the batter and cover with aluminum foil. Place the pan into a 9 by 13 inch baking dish that is filled 1/3 of the way with water. Bake in a preheated 350-degree oven for 50 to 60 minutes. Allow it to cool for 10 minutes. Use a scoop for easy removal from the pan. It's so delicious. Enjoy your maize. See you next time.